So recently, my good, nay, great, some might even say best acquaintance Feltheleb made a video ranting about minor D&D controversies, including but not limited to the new OneD&D announcement, among other things. And I thought it would be fun to react to it. So sit back, relax, and watch me potentially get mad at my friend's analysis of things that at the end of the day don't matter regarding the fun pen, paper, and dice haha game. If you can't tell, I'm tired, and I thought this would be a lot of fun to do, so I'm doing it. Let's go. Before we get started, if you want full context of what we're going to talk about here today, watch his video first. There is a link in the description. If you want to understand everything I'm reacting to the finest detail, go ahead and watch his whole video first, and then come back here. Also, subscribe to Feltheleb while you're there. What are you doing? His content is banging, and he makes awesome D&D rants.
Hi everybody, Feltheleb here.
Okay, excuse me, who do you think you are? Feltheleb? Cut that joke out, that wasn't funny at all.
In this video, I just kind of wanted to rant about some very minor controversies, if you can even call them that are stemming from some of the things that have been happening in the D&D sphere recently. The D&D movie, as well as the recent announcement of OneD&D. I'm not really going to be addressing the whole of both of those issues, just some very minor things that I've seen people talking about that I wanted to just add my 2 cents on. I've been gone for a little bit, and I haven't had the time, I guess, to commit to these things because I don't really think they're super important. Plus,
excuse me, you don't think that arguing about whether or not the druid can wild shape into an owlbear is important? Fake fan. If you haven't posted at least 15 separate full-length tweets about the subject, how can you even call yourself a D&D player? For real. This is the important stuff.
Plus, I've been out, like I said, I went to Gen Con recently, got to meet a lot of really fun creators there.
It was so fun. That's me! Oh my god, that's me! Wait! That's me in the corner! I didn't even pause there on purpose. Look! I'm a baby! Oh my god, Fel, you're amazing and I love you.
There. So this is just going to be a short little video about me ranting.
Oh, that's so cute. 11 minutes is a long video. I wish I ran a channel where 11 minutes was a long video. I'm so jealous. Do you know how annoying it is to edit an hour-long guide to a class? I envy you, Fel. I envy you and your 11-minute length. Take that as you will.
I'll say D&D Honor Among Thieves looks really fun.
Doesn't it?
I don't think it's going to be the, like, quintessential...
The Pathfinder bestiary page. Fel, that is the perfect way to just be like, this happened. It doesn't really matter, but this happened. But no, I agree. After watching the trailer, it's got a lot of, like, Uncharted, like, this is going to be a fun action-adventure Hollywood movie. I'm personally gonna go in, I think Jacob said this on Twitter, so I won't take full credit for it, but I'm gonna be following his lead. I'm going to go in not expecting it to be D&D, if that makes sense. I'm going to go into it and try to enjoy it as a movie first, and then maybe if I want to, like, afterwards, me and my friends might deconstruct it. But overall, like, I'm gonna let it be a movie first and a representation of the game second. And I will treat those as 2 separate opinions. It can be a good movie, even if it doesn't represent the game, quote, correctly.
But there's a lot of promise from everything I've seen in the trailer. They've got, like, mimics, displacer beasts, owlbears, which I'll get to. And then, like, the party seems pretty cool. It's played by a lot of, like, really fun actors. I like that they made Chris Pine the bard as sort of the leader of the group. I don't know. I think it's going to be fine. I don't really understand where, like, a lot of the trepidation comes in.
The trepidation comes in because it's Hollywood. People look at these actors who have never gone on record to play D&D and they go, Chris Pine isn't a D&D. He's a human from Hollywood. I think because the actors don't have any public association with the brand, people are hesitant, but that doesn't mean they're going to do a bad job. This is another thing that people are jumping the gun on, and I think we should just wait and see we should just wait and see the movie come out.
But there are some things I want to discuss. I've seen online people say that the party as it's represented in the movie is not representative of how parties are in the game that people play at their tabletops, which to me is ridiculous. Number one, the most OCs that people make statistically are humans, elves, and half-elves.
I legit forgot this table existed, but it's so true. Like, Human Fighter, as you can see, is the single most played class by an insane margin. Like, it is absolutely no contest. Like, sure, it would have been nice to see a Dragonborn in the party, but in reality, those are the most common characters.
After that is, I think, Dragonborn and then Tieflings. And I see people saying that it's not representative. You all have been playing 5e too much, and I know that you're at the point where your characters are insanely varied. But most
Wait, what did that say? What
where
did
your
that
characters
say?
are
Hi, I'm a human fighter, avenging the death of my father, your fourth PC. I'm a mountain biking vampire witch from the future. But it's true. Like, I will say, I think the reason Human Fighter is the most popular is because it's most people's first character, because it's easy to understand and get into. But still, a lot of people stay in that realm. You know, a lot of people's first character is either going to be a human fighter, an elf ranger / elf wizard, or maybe a half-elf of really any class. I feel like a half-elf warlock is probably super common. Sure, some people go outside their comfort zone and do play those tiefling bards or the Aasimar barbarian, or as I like to call it, the Barbaasimar. But overall, a lot of people are here to tell a cool story, and they feel like they can tell their best story and play their most character authentically. That was a sentence. Play their character most authentically if it is within their realm of familiarity to grasp and understand their character. A lot of people will look at human fighter or elf ranger and be like, I know what that looks like, I understand what they are like, so I can roleplay them well enough without going outside my comfort zone and focusing so much on what's weird about them. Whereas trying to roleplay that kobold sorcerer can be a little bit, that's not even that weird of a character concept. That Genasi monk can be a little bit weird just to get into that character's headspace, to understand where they came from, how they got here, why they're a monk, what type of Genasi, how they got to the party. That can be so overwhelming that it becomes your entire character. Whereas with a human fighter, yeah, I was in the militia, now I'm here, and now you can expand the character much deeper, you know? When your origin is one sentence versus 3 pages, it can be a lot easier to get into the character themselves. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these complex characters, and if you can handle them mentally and roleplay them deeply with what they are, more power to you. I think that's awesome, and I envy that. I also struggle with getting into a character's mindset if they don't have a simple base to build on.
But most people play the characters that look like humans.
That too.
And I think that this movie will do
self-insert.
fine with a group that looks mostly human.
Yeah.
You can also look at the success of other D&D parties, like, I don't know, Critical Role, to determine that you don't need an
Honestly, I don't watch or follow Critical Role, but yeah, people never complained that, oh, Critical Role doesn't have enough tieflings and dragonborn. The most inhuman thing here is probably the gnome / halflings. I don't know the characters.
extremely varied, wild-looking party to have people identify with the characters. That's kind of what D&D has always been about. So I think, yeah, like you're going to be just fine with having like humans, half-elves, and a tiefling. Speaking of a tiefling, people have been saying...
I promise I haven't watched this ahead of time. Oh, me and Fel are just incredibly similar people, I feel.
That this actress doesn't look like a tiefling, or they weren't sure that like this was a tiefling. Let's be very clear about something. I understand wanting to have like the quintessential tiefling from the player's handbook, or what it is that you guys really want to say, which is you want Jester from Critical Role. Rules is written, this person looks like a tiefling.
True.
Tieflings can have human-colored skin. They don't need to have enormous horns. This character has a tail. She's a tiefling, just not the one that you're used to.
Yeah, again, people are always trying to pigeonhole mechanics and lore of a world that is made to be a sandbox. Like, just because something is even said or alluded to in a rulebook doesn't mean it has to be that way. The fact that the movie takes liberties and changes things is honestly what makes it more like D&D. Tables will change things. Sure, you can keep to the books, you can keep to the rules as written and lore as written, but more often than not, tables are going to change something. And if you think that you don't change things, I honestly don't believe you. Maybe you don't change, like, little dits and dobbles like races and their color schemes and stuff like that, but I guarantee you take liberties when it comes to the governments of certain cities, or which officials are in charge, or even what wildlife is found in an area. I guarantee, even if you don't do it on purpose, you don't do everything exactly as it would be written by a developer. And that's fine. That's why the game is awesome, because anybody can change anything, and it's still D&D, or it's still Pathfinder, and it's still awesome.
To say that she is, like, not a tiefling, or that they're or human washing tieflings just is not the case. This person, as they're represented, fits with the 5e description of what a tiefling looks like. But she is a druid, which leads me to the biggest controversy that people have talked about, the fact that she turns into an owlbear.
Can I just say that I love that this has been the big controversy that people jumped on? Of all things, it's, excuse me, owlbears are not beasts. They're aberrations, or monstrosities, or whatever the D&D term is, and you can't wild shape into an owlbear.
From what I can see, specifically kind of turning into an owlbear, like a snowy owlbear, people were quick to point out that an owlbear in D&D 5e in the Monster Manual is a monstrosity, not a beast, and wild shape only allows you to turn into beasts. But, like, is this really the argument you want to make?
Is this because the hill you want to die
this is
on?
how I feel about the owlbear transformation. One, you could not ask for a more inoffensive monster from the Monster Manual to become a beast. It's just a low CR monster, and it doesn't have, like, any special abilities. It pretty much is a beast for all the reasons that the Wizards of the Coast made you only pick beasts for the wild shape mechanic. And also, I'm not sure that Wizards is sure that...
I love this going forward. I got the one-on-one with Fel in person at Gen Con. I got the whole rabbit hole he dove down, so I'm really excited to hear how he put it into the video.
The owlbear is a monstrosity. It seems pretty sure when you read the Monster Manual, but if you look at the ecology section of the owlbear's description, you can see that they kind of put it in really vague terms. They're like, maybe it was created by a wizard.
Theory.
But also maybe it was like a fey beast. I think that's a reference to the different ecologies that owlbears have had in different editions. Like in first edition, they said the same thing. Like, this was probably created by a wizard, but we don't know.
Use the word probably.
Also in, I think, 4th edition, they were just like fey beasts from the Fey Wild. Regardless, we know a lot through the different books about owlbears, about their ecology, how they give birth, their like mating seasons, how territorial they are.
Fel went all the way through, like, every resource of Owlbear he could find. Like, mad respect, Fel. I absolutely love how much research went into this.
And to me, that just kind of screams, like, everything that we know about other beasts can be applied to owlbear. So, like, why couldn't you have your druid turn into an owlbear? This is a beast. This is a beast anyway, and they put it in the monstrosity section, I think just because they wanted to preserve the legacy of it all, but it's a beast. This is a beast.
It's an animal, yeah. It's just a smart animal.
OneD&D came out, D&D 5.5. Honestly, people have been arguing about whether or not D&D is truly going to go editionless with OneD&D. I think they've been really clear about what they want to do, which is they're making a lot of money off of 5e.
I know he's got more to say, but I love just period right there. They've been really clear that they're making a lot of money. Period. Full stop. End of video.
And they really don't want to lose people by putting out a new edition. So I think what they're going to do, which has been clear by the new sort of playtest supplement that came out, is they're just going to update things and call it D&D. And I know people are frustrated by that. If you want to call it a new edition, go ahead and call it a new edition. But from here on out, at least unless things change for Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast financially, D&D 5e is what we have. So in that sense, I do believe that they are going to go quote-unquote additionalists, as they stated.
I could see them doing this for the foreseeable future. I could also see them 10 years later down the line, after OneD&D has been around for a decade and the 5e rule set is effectively 20 years old or so, I could see them going back and then making 6th edition. I guarantee we are just getting OneD&D, and Wizards will avoid calling it a new edition for as long as they can. And then once interest in that dies out, they will do 6th edition. And they might even call it 6th edition. And I think when they do, it'll be an attempt to rope in, I don't want to say old school players, but players who might have lost interest. Because don't get me wrong, Wizards is going to gain so many more people for OneD&D. They're going to bring in a horde of new audience, as they always do, and they're going to keep most of their current audience. But it is undeniable they will lose some people. When some people are getting bored of the 5th edition rule set already, and seeing that, going forward, we're just going to make more 5th edition, people are going to drop out. They might look into other games like Traveler, Call of Cthulhu, Pathfinder, whatever, just to start to learn something new, because people do like something new. Now, marketing-wise, you want to avoid the new as much as possible because it scares people away when they take their money with them, but people do still like new things, and playing the same rule set for 20 years could get rough for some people. So that's why I think down the line, we will still see 6th edition. It'll just technically be 7th edition if we count OneD&D as 6th edition, which I don't. It's just 5e v2.
Whether or not this is going to be a good thing for D&D remains to be seen. I've sort of always been of the opinion that in terms of people playing the game and getting new, varied types of people playing Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition has been the best thing to happen to Dungeons and Dragons, at least when you look at it in those terms.
Absolutely. A lot of people look at games like D&D from a personal level, their personal experience. You know, they played it back in the 80s, they played it for 40 years, and they look at 5e and go, oh, why'd they make it simpler? I don't want that. Well, a lot of people do. And what is important to you is not necessarily what's important to the masses. And you also have to remember, at the end of the day, it's a company. They're doing marketing and business strategies to attract the most new people to make the most profitable decisions, which we are lucky that we do live in a hobby, in a genre of game, that the more marketingly successful the game is, the more people will be joining the hobby. So while a lot of people will complain, oh, I don't like this rule set, if it succeeds and brings in millions of new players, well, that's millions of people who may not have even tried the hobby in the first place. And I think that's beautiful. Plus, if people join and they end up wanting something meatier, that often trickles down into new players for other systems. I guarantee a lot of people who play Call of Cthulhu, Pathfinder, anything like that regularly might have started with 5th edition or 4th edition or 3.5 or whatever and just wanted a change of pace.
I just can only hope that there are some good things that come out of that. Looking at the new supplement, here's what I'll say. My most favorite thing, the shift of the spell lists to being 3 different spell lists,
Big.
Arcane, Divine, and Primal, I think. My least favorite thing is a D20 automatically succeeds and a D1 automatically fails.
But it's only with the limited bounded, like, if the target number would be greater than 30, you're not allowed to roll. If you need less than a 5 to succeed, you're not allowed to roll. Like, so you could only automatically succeed up to, like, picking a super complicated lock, maybe with a DC 30 pick lock check, but not to open Pandora's box with like a DC 70 or something.
A 1, nat 1, and a nat 20 automatic.
Do not use the term nat 1 on my channel again, Fel, okay? This is your last warning.
fail and succeed in all contexts. Absolutely ridiculous thing, in my opinion. It, I think, forces DMs to have to be really clear about when they want to make an ability check. I think there are some really good reasons for why a DM might want to have a check and have his players roll when you know that the players can't succeed. I might save that topic for another video, but regardless, I don't think it's a good idea to have that be the base rule. That all being said, like I imagine a lot of OneD&D will be, it's an easy shift to just change things to how they were previously or how you want them to.
And that's sort of been 5e as a whole. It's very much in favor of the players, where the GM has to change things. Now, it is designed where changing things isn't hard. You can change a rule on a whim, you can change a rule forever and just use that. It's called a house rule for a reason. And it's not hard to do. It can get cumbersome if you end up changing a lot of rules for your table, but as long as you can keep track of them, they're really, really easy to do. It's sort of the inverse when it comes to something like Pathfinder 2e, where as a player, there's a lot more to learn than a game like 5e, but as a GM, you don't have to change or make up rules for really anything, because all of the rules are provided. Rules for anything you might need, vehicle statistics, travel speeds like that, gold prices for magic items. It's all provided to the GM and is very helpful with little to no need to change rules on the GM side. But like I said, that does mean that player characters do need to learn a lot more about the game before they can really get the full experience.
There hasn't been a lot of talk about this, I'm not sure, but I have seen some people talking about like tieflings, specifically the fact that tieflings were changing to where the people of the multiverse, the humanoids of the multiverse, are not considering the tieflings as sort of an inherently untrustworthy or evil race based only on their looks, because famous tieflings the multiverse across have done heroic deeds.
So this is a very, very interesting and caustic subject, so you need to be sort of careful what you say around it for the sake of everyone's respect and, you know, not being a dick. If Wizards had just gone and written a sentence saying, also tieflings aren't scary anymore, period, yeah, I'd have an issue with that from a story writing perspective. Like, okay, you're just changing everything in one sentence. That's lazy and I don't approve of it. But they didn't just do that. They gave a reason. They've given an explanation. And what I love is that player characters are part of the reason. Assuming that OneD&D takes place even just like a couple decades in the future of 5th edition, like, because players have been playing as good and neutral aligned tieflings that have done heroic deeds, done legendary events, and saved the world on numerous occasions, I guarantee there's multiple tieflings out there who have stopped a Tarrasque. They've built a reputation for their people to show, hey, we're not just demons, you know? And I respect that. I like that they've given this reason, and it makes sense. If you still want people to throw garbage at tieflings as they enter the village or run away screaming, sure, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to ignore or include any text in the book. But as far as people getting mad that tieflings are no longer mistrusted, I think you're overreacting, and you can use that at your table, but there's no reason for it to be the norm, especially when they give a good reason.
And yet some people are like mad that that is the case, as if the tieflings being distrusted is something that is inherent to who they are,
right? Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense to me. Because once again, there's always going to be consequence and change in stories as they progress, and it seems like the new way that Wizards is going with this makes a lot of sense.
To expand on that, it's weird to me that people are taking it as a coin flip. They're just changing it on a dime. There's no time passing. Just, oh no, people just accept them now. No, time has passed. The story evolves. The characters change, and that is how a story moves, especially a story spanning an entire universe of worlds and cultures and peoples. These changes happen. That's literally just natural.
This all being said, If you want to explore discrimination in your D&D game, it doesn't make you a bad person. By all means, go ahead and do that. But don't act like they have to keep tieflings the way they are. It was very weird that they made it to where the default was you have to be discriminatory against tieflings based on how they look. I get that it's an interesting story thing to explore, but in my experience, a lot of people don't want to explore that aspect of it. So you can just not have it in your game. It's fine. Just add in the discrimination if you want.
I think it's very brave of Fel to come out and say that, and I absolutely agree that if you want to handle discrimination, if you want to handle these really sensitive, quote, woke topics, feel free. Feel free to handle them at your table, tackle them however you want to, but there are people who don't want that in their life. There's people who don't feel comfortable talking about it. There are people who are currently experiencing it and they don't want it in their game. And I think that's completely understandable. So just because you and your table are comfortable with it doesn't mean everyone else is, and that doesn't mean that your group's thoughts and opinions should be the norm. That's my piece on it. I'm not going to go any farther because it's an uncomfortable topic even for me, and I just don't like talking about things that make people uncomfortable.
That is all that I have for you guys, right?
That is all that he has for us, guys. So, awesome video, Fel. I'm sure I cut a lot of this out in post, so if you want to watch the whole thing, there is a link in the description. Thank you again to Fel for making such banging content. I love checking it out when I can. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me in everything I do. If you would like to join the Patreon as well, there is a link in the description. That is all for me. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones. Plus Feltheleb.